Alright, hello and welcome. So, today we need to talk about Riven mods. Because Riven mods are a huge problem right now. And I'm going to talk about why that is. So, first let's look at the Riven mod that I currently have. This is a Flux Rifle Riven mod. The Flux Rifle portion of this does not change. And these mods are completely random. And what I mean by that is that they are completely random. Whenever you get that, or whenever you get a Riven mod, whenever you unmask it, it'll be for a specific weapon that will not change, and it will have completely random stats out of a pool of possible prefixes and suffixes with random percentages attached to them, which is awful for the game. Like, really bad for Warframe at large, because it does a lot of different things that are all bad. So, whenever you take this mod, you can re-roll it, cycle it, and you have no control over what you want to do with this weapon. So if I cycle this, it becomes masked, and I have no influence on what the stats become of this weapon. I get no choice. I get no progress towards what I want to do with the weapon. It's just entirely random. So here's what my Flux Rifle was beforehand. And then obviously you can see what it is now. It's toxin and reload speed. So that's very bad. That's very, very bad. Because this mod got worse after I went and farmed and spent resources. Because I have no control over what happens to this mod when I cycle it. I can't make it better. I have no option to lock in stats or increase the value of say this toxin stat on here. I have no control over any of that. And I have no control over what weapon I get it for, which means that because this is for a Flux Rifle, this mod is entirely useless to me pretty much no matter what. And I was going to go into why this kind of randomness is bad, and because it is, for Warframe. But a dev workshop came out, so I would instead like to take some quotes from that dev workshop, and I'll link that down below in the description so you guys can go read the entirety of it for yourselves. But I'd like to offer some counterpoints to things that were said in that dev workshop. So we'll start from the top, which is the goal of the Riven mod system. We want to give players something unique to them that can speak to their wider arsenal. We want to give new life to the arsenal in a non-static way. Okay, so you do give players something unique to them. That's fair. You give them a Riven mod that might be uniquely absolutely dog shit, or uniquely worth a lot of platinum, is basically how it works right now. Because this is not only for shit tier weapons like the Flux Rifle, which is not total dog shit or anything. It's just below average. But you also have mods that are for the Soma and the Dread. So whenever you get a Flux Rifle mod, it's just labeled immediately as useless. There's nothing. I'm not going to spend potentially infinity resources, which you can see how much this starts to cost as you roll it right here. Check that out. Check out that ridiculous bullshit. If you farmed any Kuva at all, you know that it only has a 25% chance to appear on a mission anyway, and not even on every mission on the star chart. So you do the fucking math for how long it would take to actually farm this once you're on cycle number 10. So yeah, there's that. So that's terrible. Because there's not new life to your arsenal when you get a mod like this. This isn't new life to my Flux Rifle. This is, oh, I got a terrible Riven mod. Well, guess I fucked that one up. Maybe it'll be better some other time ever. And there's potential that could never happen, which is awful. But yeah. And it also, worth noting, this is non-static in a bad way, because this is just raw stats, and most of the effects are raw stats. So, let's move on. Riven mods were added to incentivize endgame players to revisit old weapons and to change up their playstyle. So, as stated before, these Riven mods do come onto meta weapons, like the Soma, like this mod right here. That's a mod that exists. Also, this mod exists too. So no matter this Flux Rifle mod would have to say let's say plus 1,000% toxin to somehow begin to be a consideration in my mind against that thing. So you're not really incentivizing endgame players to revisit old weapons. You're incentivizing players to hope they get a weapon that's already good as a Riven mod. There's no... Like, no one is going to spend their, like, hard-earned resources, Kuva, on a fucking Flux Rifle mod. That's asinine to believe that. Because I have no way to assure that this mod could be good. If in some world I could be like, oh, I got a Riven mod for the Flux Rifle. The Flux Rifle's okay, and I could build, specifically in a reasonable amount of time, a Riven mod that is strong enough that I could make the Flux Rifle actually a little more powerful than, say, the Soma Prime. Because I don't have a Soma Prime Riven yet, so that would be a good use of my time. But Riven mods are not currently that way. So, that's a dream pie in the sky. Further, yes, meta weapons are in the selection pool, but Riven mods are not needed to make this gear, like the Tonkor or Sinoid Simulor, more powerful. Okay, so I'm just going to show this mod again. That's more powerful! So yes, they are needed to make it more powerful, because this is how more works. This is more. This is higher than before. In fact, this is a couple mods put together. This is of greater value directly. So not needed to make this gear more powerful is absurd. That's just straight up not true, because look at that. Actually, look at these. Those are all way more powerful. That's just, like, these are mostly just raw numbers. They're not anything interesting. But let's move on. What they can do is add an interesting buff to a comparatively underpowered weapon. Ah, yes. Ah, yes, indeed. An interesting buff. 0.9% more toxin than a basic toxin mod on my Flux Rifle. And man, that reload speed, it's getting me rock hard, let me tell ya. What an interesting buff. What a new world we live in where I have this mod. Where this isn't not just a combination of other mods that are more, like, that are just represented more powerful than they would normally be. It's absurd to insinuate that these are interesting buffs when they are just numbers that are now bigger. That's not an interesting buff. An interesting buff is if this said, like, let's say 50% for, like, plus 50% knockdown on shot, where half of the, like, shots you fire are gonna knock enemies down, and then, and this is actually already in the pool, maybe some punch through. Punch through I would consider maybe an interesting modifier for this. Let's say 30% armor piercing. That's interesting. All of your, like, all of the other damage that you have on this weapon has 30% of that value is totally armor piercing. That's interesting. I would absolutely give you that as an interesting buff. But the things that are represented actually on these Riven mods are not interesting. They're just other mods that now have higher values in one mod. There's nothing interesting about that. It's just a bunch of random bullshit. So, insinuating that that's interesting is absolutely silly. We have prevented players from choosing what weapons their Riven mod will be for. If we didn't, we would end up with millions of Soma mods and none for the Gorgon. Okay, so what has been done instead is that we now have haves and have-nots. The people that ruled, like, that did the roll and got the Gorgon are now in the fuck zone, where that's completely worthless to them, outside of the actual perfect roll, which we'll go into in a moment, and the people that got the Soma mod are now rolling that to be kind of mediocre and selling it for thousands of platinum to the players that have been playing a long time and just have a lot of platinum by proxy of that. So all you did by not allowing players to choose is create market difference based entirely upon a player's luck. Entirely. Like, whether or not that one roll they got at the end of the War Within, and possibly, maybe they got another one from a sortie. Pretty low chances of that, though, across the board. A very small amount of players probably got another Riven mod, in, like, relevance to how many players actually ran the sorties. So now you just have haves and have-nots. As opposed to having a lot of haves, but they all have the same thing. You have have-nots who got shitty weapons like myself, who got a Flux Rifle. And also, worth noting, I don't care that I got the Flux Rifle. I care that this system is shitty. Okay, moving on. The exponential cycling costs are there to encourage players to try the existing stats before they embark on the journey to the perfect roll. Okay, now here's the thing. I don't have to try this Flux Rifle mod. I know what this does. Because these are not interesting buffs, I don't need to test this to tell you that this is a slightly, very slightly, better Toxin mod with also some reload speed. And every time I re-roll it, I already know, because these are just flat buffs, I already know what the perfect roll is. I don't need to test this, because that's asinine. Like, the buffs aren't interesting, so you've already, like, you can just do the math for whether or not a mod is good. With a couple different exceptions, where, say, a player might prefer punch through over critical damage because they want to hit multiple enemies instead of hitting one enemy harder. Sure, let's say that. Maybe that's a tiny, tiny, itty-bitty consideration. Tiny. Now, let's talk about the the insinuation of the perfect roll and the cycling cost increases. So I showed this already. Here's the cycling cost increases again. So you get about 600 Kuva from a Kuva siphon that has a 25% chance to show up. So the journey to the perfect roll, with how random these mods are, is longer than your lifespan. So in the ridiculous world where you get, like, first time, like right out of the War Within, the first mod you got, let's say you wanted it for the Soma, and not for, like, the Dread or the Quanta is your favorite weapon, perhaps. You got the Soma, and you rolled it out, and it's got some stats on it, and it's not perfect. And now you want to cycle it until it is. With the amount of randomness represented by this, because it's random in both attributes, and it can have 3 positives and 1 negative, and you don't want the negative whenever you're going for perfect. And these percentages are not, like, paired with the thing. You're not getting 10.1% toxin every time you roll. So you're only looking for the actual highest value that can actually be. The perfect roll is almost assuredly longer than your lifespan is. Where if you spent your time rolling this over and over and over, there's actually a pretty good likelihood that you would die before you got the perfect roll. Because, and it's a lot of it is because you can't just roll like a shit ton right in a row. Like, you've got to spend the time revealing it and spend the time farming the Kuva. And you're looking at these Kuva costs right now. There they are. Oh man, isn't that going to be a great time to try and get to the perfect roll before you die? So, insinuating that there's a road period to the perfect roll, like there's a journey there, is ridiculous, because the journey there depends on if you get the 0.01% chance, even lower than that, that you're actually going to get the perfect roll, which is almost assuredly not going to happen. So there's no real road there. For those of you who want to find the best mod possible, that avenue is available to you. No, it's not. Like, here's how progression works for Riven mods versus regular mods. There it is. See that infinite loop? Yeah, you could be stuck in there literally forever, unless you have outstanding luck. And you're almost assuredly going to be stuck in that swirling pool of despair. Because the bottom one represents a mod like Serration, where once you get the Serration, your journey to having that be at parity with other people's Serration looks like this. You farmed the Endo, you farmed the credits, which are things you are going to get, and now you have a Serration, like everyone else's. And that's good, because that puts you at parity with other players. Riven mods don't do that. Riven mods are too random to do that. So, let's move on. We have started to add quirks to weapons, as shown with the recent Syndicate melees. Okay, so here's the thing about the Syndicate melees. Let's just go talk about them for a second. Let's go right up here. We've got the Sidon, the Bolt Ace, the Heliacore, the Lecta, the Dark Dagger, and the Magistar of their respective syndicates. The quirks of these weapons are by and large not the reason anyone's using them. And most people aren't using them. So, the Vaycore Sidon, it might have an interesting mechanic, but it's not a useful, interesting mechanic. And also, worth noting, that the mechanic that is on the Vaycore Sidon is more interesting than anything that is even possible to be represented by Riven mods, because none of those are considered quirks. They're just statistical buffs. The perfect roll is just a, like, across-the-board statistical buff to whatever weapon you have it for. That's what the perfect roll is on a Riven mod. That's how that exists. It's not interesting. It's not even as interesting as the Vaycore Sidon, which is like a minor quirk. What does the Telos Boltes have? Has a big AoE when you spin. That's not a quirk, you just added an AoE to it. So yeah, no shit, people are going to use it. It's not even really a quirk, you just made the range, have a visual effect, and do damage and inflict slash procs. That's all you did. There's nothing actually interesting about that. This thing's quirk, to summon an enemy, is useless and inconsistent and slow and not worth it. So, hooray, that weapon's not good. The Lecta gives you more credits. How interesting. How outstanding. I totally would want a mod that gives me more credits for killing. Absolutely. Who wouldn't want that? That's not useful. We already have hundreds of ways to get credits, and like most players that are in the end game stage, where these Riven mods are apparently for, already have like millions of credits, like myself. And I spent like fucking 42 million credits on fucking tables. Like, and I still have like 43 million. Like, what the fuck? And I don't even farm credits. Like, I don't even do that many raids comparatively to a lot of other endgame players. Like, I'm not even about that life. And then we have the dagger, which, the quirk on the dagger, I would argue that most players who use this dagger don't even know what the fuck it is. It gives you overshields whenever you attack an enemy that has a magnetic proc, which every once in a blue moon will give your Avara who's assassinating enemies an overshield. Big whoop-de-fucking-do. That's not actually, like, a quirk that anyone gives a shit about. The reason people are using it is because it is technically a slightly better dagger that you can put Covert Lethality and the Syndicate mod on to give yourself energy. That's what is actually happening with that dagger. And the Magistar has such a tiny, like, ridiculously low value heal. Who's using this? Like, you're not using this weapon outside of liking how it looks. Like, realistically, its stats don't compensate for that, and its quirk is worthless compared to Life Strike, so what are you doing? Like, none of these, like, as shown with the Syndicate melees, like, if quirks continue to be as ineffectual as that, then what even? Like, the Harpack has a better quirk than any of those weapons do. So, oh, not the Telos Boltes, because that's just a damage increase in an area. Because, like, obviously AoEs are going to beat out fucking anything. It's not an interesting quirk. It's just bigger and more damage. So moving on. We want players to be able to use their weapons in new ways that typical builds don't encourage or allow. As I said before, typical builds allow toxin and reload speed. Among all, like, look at all these stats. We already have mods to do this. There they are. These things already happen. Got plenty of mods to give me toxin, plenty of mods to give me reload speed, plenty of mods to give crit chance, plenty to give crit damage. We already got all that shit. Like, there's not, like, it's not don't encourage, like, new ways that typical builds don't encourage or allow. Like, the perfect roll has the exact same stats that we're already using on the given weapons. So, like, what new way are we going for here? There's no new way. It's ridiculous to insinuate that. The current maximum number of 15 Riven mods is a reflection of this, as limitations encourage creativity and choice. No. That sentence itself is a contradiction to itself. Limitations encourage creativity and choice. No. They do neither of those things. You know what this capacity of 15 Riven mods does? It means that once I get to 15 Riven mods, I need to either sell one of the shitty mods, like if I have this Flux Rifle one and then a bunch of good weapons, this Flux Rifle one's getting sold, or I'm fucking dissolving it because I'm not using this. It's a trash Riven that I'm going to dissolve or sell. Like, by having a 15 capacity, all you're doing is giving a big middle finger to collector-type players, like myself a little bit, because I would ideally want to have a Riven mod for all of the primaries. Because if you had a Riven mod for all of the primaries, that would encourage creativity in choosing what weapon you're going to use, and then building a Riven mod that's great for that, and then your choice comes from having multiple Riven mods that are great, and choosing what weapon you want to do. And then your Riven mods are obviously going to be slightly different within that for each individual weapon. The ideal role. Insinuating that you could ever get more than one perfect roll without keeling over and dying. So yeah. And then finally, we want to hear what our community thinks, which I think has already been done greatly looking at all of the feedback places for Rivens. This system has to change. And there are a lot of good ways to change it, I think. And there are a lot of relatively simple ways, I would say, to make this system good. So now I'm going to suggest a few ways to do so. So here's the thing. All of the different like prefixes and suffixes you can get, here they are. And the percentiles are also random besides these. Don't make the percentiles random. Standardize, if you have toxin and a percentage, the toxin paired up with that percentage is always the same. Like say it's always plus 10% toxin on all things. So now you've standardized the stat that comes with the modifier. You're always getting 10% toxin whenever you would roll a toxin. Okay, there you go. You reduced your randomness by a huge margin and made it a lot more acceptable. Beyond that, whenever you roll something that you do want, allow you to lock it in. Because not allowing that means once you get, like, let's say you got two things that you want. Let's say you got damage and you want crit damage and toxin. You got damage and toxin, but you want damage, crit damage, and toxin. Maybe those are the things that you want. And then you don't want a negative modifier, which maybe don't let you lock in no negative modifier. So you lock in your toxin once you get it, and then you roll it, and you get your damage modifier, which is also paired up with a specific percentile that does not change. Then you lock that in, and then you random it and this is like the longer portion where you're trying to get one thing to get exactly how you got it, but you've already locked in those other two stats, and it's like, okay, this mod is good, but I can continue to roll it and make it better. And then once you get crit damage, it's like, haha, I got it. Lock that shit in, and then you just roll until you don't get a negative, or you get a negative that you view as a positive. That's a way where you can make actual real fucking progress. And the other thing that we gotta stop is the fucking exponential gain of this fucking Kuva. Who? Literally who? Like, who thought that this was a good idea? Look at these values! This is absurd! Absolutely absurd! Like, what? What? Like, over 3,000 that quickly? No! Absolutely not. Standardize this price to like 1,000 and then charge you like 1,000 Kuva to lock one. Like, that's what that should realistically do. Is like, whenever you roll it, it costs 1,000, and then to lock one attribute, it also costs 1,000. That would be way better. And now there is one other thing. That was a suggestion that I saw on the Reddit that I thought was actually really interesting and good, was to have the stats on the Riven mods actually scale with your MR. So the more mastery rank you have, the higher those stats would come by proxy of that. So if I'm like, say, MR 10, maybe that says plus 10%, but whenever you're like MR 15, maybe it says like plus 13%, and then at MR 20 or whatever, it goes up like another 2% to like plus 15% to reward higher MR. That might be reasonable. Just to have like it at parity in that kind of way, where it's like as long as you're the same mastery rank as another player, which is reasonably achievable, then you're getting the same mod. Then you just have to increase your mastery, and then eventually, at some point in the future, mastery rank 30 is going to be possible for every player, so everyone will be at parity who is at mastery rank 30, who are the more experienced players, who would obviously want those stats, because that just makes sense. But yeah, that was an interesting suggestion that I saw that I think would be good. But let's do something weird. We're going to go over to another game I play called Terra, and I'm going to show how they deal with randomness in builds. Because it is much in the same way that I'm suggesting, and it's handled very well in Terra, where you can be at parity with another player. So, let's head over there and show that real quick. Yeah. Alright, so, here we are over in Terra. So, in Terra, obviously, it's more of a traditional MMO, and things work a little bit differently. But, I'm going to show how this works with my chess piece on this character. So, I have this chess piece, and it has these values, as you can see. The yellow values with the refresh mark on them are the abilities that I can re-roll on this gear. So, if I take this is a Master Enigmatic Scroll, which is basically the equivalent of putting Kuva into an item from Warframe. Take this and it opens up a menu. Basically our modding menu here. and you see these abilities. So you see what it has on it currently, and then you can click this and see what the effects are that you can get. So these are the effects that you can get, that you can see exactly what you have the possibilities for on either side. Your primary thing can be any of these 10 or so abilities, which you have a 1 out of 10 chance of getting what you want, which is, like, that's about right. And then over here, you've got, what, 9 different things that these 3 skills can be, which is a good-sized pool of things that you could get on here. And you can see that within that, these percentages are standardized, so I can get 4.5 less damage taken. And then, like, enraged monsters, 8%, which I already have here. And now this is very much akin to how Riven mods are, except with the addition that Riven mods have exponentially more possibilities in both of these categories, hugely, which is way too much RNG for Warframe. A much smaller list like this would be much better. And then, besides that, in Warframe you can't do this, which is just bloop. I use another material called Spellbind in this game, and it could be called a fucking huge variety of things. You could just use more Kuva in Warframe, where I lock this in. So I've now locked this jackhammer damage in. Like, I have 12% more jackhammer, and whenever I reset the effects of this to, like, randomize all these, this one will not change. And you can lock multiple. So I could lock all of them, and then this game has a master working system so that this item can go above +9, but, like, let's not get into that. That's the reason you can lock all of them here. So I could randomize just 1, randomize 2, randomize the main ability and not one of the extra abilities. And you can kind of do exactly what you want, and you just use more of this material to lock stuff in, which makes a huge amount of sense. So, just wanted to come over here and give an example of allowing your player to influence RNG in a positive way. Where, yes, I'm still, like, letting these things be chosen by RNG whenever I don't lock them in, but the pool is small enough where I'm probably not going to have, like, infinite randomization, because these are standardized, like decreased damage while knocked down by 5.3. I'm not getting 5.5, I'm not getting 5.1, I'm not getting 5.7, I'm not getting 6, I'm getting 5.3 no matter what on this item. That's good because it's standardized, and when I roll decreased damage taken from enraged monsters, I know it's always going to be 8%. Another player's not going to have 9, another player's not going to have 10. And it's really important, specifically in Warframe, to have equivalence across your players. So, I just wanted to use this as a good example of a way to give your player a really, like, large amount of choice while still making, like, say, the grind wall to get these things relatively large, and to have them rely at least a little bit on RNG. But yeah, that's this game is a good example of a way to allow a player to let randomness work in their favor, basically. And I just wanted to show that off. But yeah, also Terra is a good game. If you're into, like, more classic style MMOs and you also like Warframe, maybe give it a shot. It's free to play. But yeah, that's Riven mods, and, like, that's what I just showed there is kind of like the direction I would like it to take, where players have agency in their progression. But yeah, that's all for today. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.